Nick, it happened. Can't take it away from ownership. They spent the money, man. I think there's a significant amount of questions I have with this. I don't know if you'll have all the answers to them, Nick, but let's get into it. The Reds obviously claimed off of waivers. Um, our guy. I'm going to say it's our guy, Harrison Bader. Our guy. Some people are saying that might not be our guy, but you know what? He's an NL Central a lover. He couldn't find his way back. He went to New York. Actually loved it. It sounds like I listened to his interview. It sounds like he loved New York, but that's beside the point. He did come back to the NL Central, and then Hunter Renfroe. Why am I struggling here? He's a football player too. Just throwing that out there, right?
Hunter Renfroe?
Yeah,
sounds like a football player.
Pretty sure it is. Anyways, your overall thoughts on it, Nick, and then we'll obviously get into kind of the what does this actually mean to the Cincinnati Reds?
Well, it's an exciting day. I mean, the Reds are better. There's no question about that. When the Reds roll out their lineup in Game 1 tomorrow against a left-handed pitcher, they have a significantly better lineup. Does this mean the Reds are bona fide heading to the playoffs? No. Does this probably, if we're talking percentage points, moves the Reds 1 or 2% closer, but they're closer. And you know what? They got closer without giving anything up. And if there's one thing that you learned today, it's that small market teams like the Reds and like the Cleveland Guardians, they value prospects more than they value money.
As they should, because at the end of the day, that's their best chance. If you really think about it, the Reds' best chance of getting guys that are very good, elite level players that are going to allow them to win a World Series, it's going to come from homegrown talent and or prospects that they go out and get and through trade. So I don't think that's breaking news. It is nice though, Nick, to see today a very clear sign that that ownership, quite frankly, in the front office wasn't strictly lying to our face. I said it earlier on some programming with Chatterbox. I said it maybe yesterday. This was a PR nightmare a little bit for some ball clubs, because if you wanted to sit there and say that you're always looking to win, and earlier this year, Nick Krall said out loud that they had financial flexibility. That was the exact quote he uses. Again, quote, financial flexibility, end quote, because of attendance. He even said because of the crowds that Great American Ballpark had earlier this year. When Ellie came up, they had the winning streak, and then they put 100,000 people basically in the stadium in a weekend with the Atlanta series. He said they had some money to spend. They didn't spend any at the deadline, right? They didn't really have any kind of situation where they utilized some cash at the deadline, but they did here, and I'm thankful for it. Before we kind of get into what those two players mean, though, Nick, I have a quick question for you, and I get your thoughts on this. How many players I don't know if this is public knowledge or not. I've been running around with my head cut off all day. How many players do you think the Reds claimed if we don't actually know? I don't know if that's made public, but is it made public? And if it's not, how many players do you think they claimed?
Well, they won't say names, and I don't think they're allowed to say like who they tried to claim. I think there's something in the CB, which would make sense. Like it's probably not a good idea to say, yeah, we tried to get this particular guy, but we couldn't. But Gordon Whitmire reported that Nick Krall said the Reds made 2 additional claims. So if you do the math, who was 2 players that didn't get past the Reds? It had to be Lucas Giolito, Matt Moore, or Ronaldo Lopez, who went to the Guardians. So to me, it seems like the Reds claimed Renfroe, they claimed Bader, they claimed Giolito, and they probably claimed Ronaldo Lopez. He was a little bit cheaper than Matt Moore, so I'm assuming if you're going that far, you probably went with the cheaper reliever. But the Reds that's almost $6 million that the Reds put out. And if you're tracking this, I know when the news initially came out that the Cleveland Guardians got all 3 of those pitchers, Giolito, Moore, and Lopez, everyone's like, damn it, Cleveland, you screwed us. They actually probably saved the Reds because it came out that the Marlins put 2 claims in. So again, do the math. That's probably Giolito and one of those relievers. And the Marlins were ahead of the Reds in the pecking order. So if Cleveland doesn't claim them, they go to the Marlins. By the way, Marlins won tonight 2.5 or a game and a half behind the Reds right now. So Cleveland actually probably did the Reds a solid here by taking them. They're in the American League. And the great thing about this day, Trace, not only do the Reds get 2 players, none of the other teams the Reds are in competition with got a damn thing today. That's another big piece of this that helps the Reds.
Yeah, you brought that point up earlier on the old X.com app, and I thought about that for a minute because at first I was a little frustrated that they didn't get Giolito and or any relievers, and I'll get your opinion on the Clevenger situation here in a little bit, but it is interesting that you're right. There's no doubt that if the Marlins, and you even pointed this out, and I thought about this, if the Marlins had known they were not going to get those 2 guys and it freed up some cash for them, would they have possibly put in for Bader and or Hunter Renfroe in and I think that you could make a strong case as to why they would. Now, I don't know if they would have or not. Obviously, that'll always be speculation unless it comes right out of the horse's mouth. But I'm just thankful that the Reds not only did they put claims in, that's one thing. That feels a little bit like a moral victory, right? If they put in 4 claims today and they all got taken, Nick, it'd be like, okay, well, they meant business. It just didn't work out. They got 2 guys that I think can genuinely help them. That's the part that I'm excited about. I think Hunter Renfroe is a guy I'll be honest, I'm not saying that I was skeptical of Bob when I sat out here yesterday and kind of sang their praises of spending money. They spent money and they've continued to spend money. You want to argue about where they've spent it? I'll keep saying that until I'm blue in the face. If you've watched this show long enough, you're probably tired of hearing me saying it, but it's true. This ownership group has spent money before. And I expected them to spend money again. I did not think they would get Hunter Renfroe because $2 million, man, for 1 month. That's kind of decent money, man. I'm not saying that go bow down to the Castellinis. I'm not saying that, but it is good to see. Like, I mean, that is nice to see. And you know what? Like, that's putting your money where your mouth is a little bit there. And then the second part is the guy that obviously I was, having fun on internet with yesterday and last night. And I just think that Bader's a guy that can help us. I really do. I think if he can get hot, and that's what we're expecting here, right? We all know this. I would think that you would know this. This isn't a situation where we come in and we look at the back of the baseball card and say, okay, look what we get, everybody. I don't look at it like that. I look at this as like lightning in a bottle. This is a lottery ticket, Nick. It could go one of 2 ways. Harrison Bader could be the best baseball player on this team for the next month, and he might be the worst baseball player on this team for the next month. I don't know. But if you watch this Reds long enough, the past 2 weeks, Nick, they needed something. They needed a shot in the arm. They needed somebody to come in and mix it up, and a guy that can play defense in the outfield, that can run like the wind, and has a chance to get hot. He smashes lefties. He'd be a great platoon player with a guy like Fraley. All of those types of things, when you put them together, it's a perfect fit for this Reds team. Do I think it automatically works out, Nick? Of course not. We're talking about a month of baseball, right? Look at a guy like Will Benson, Nick. You could pick a month of baseball where he's the worst player in the world, and you could pick a month of baseball where he's the most valuable player in Major League Baseball. So we'll see where it goes, but at least they took a chance. I'm really thankful for that. I think it re-energized this fan base, if anything. I had some fun today, and I'm still imploring people to go down there tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday. It's a big series, Nick. I've said it a million times. Splitting is the minimum, but taking 3 of 4 and or sweeping the Cubs it puts this team on a whole nother trajectory.
Yeah, and so looking at the numbers a little bit more, it seems like the Reds put up close to $6 million worth of risk today in terms of players they were willing if every single one of them came to you, whereas the Marlins only put up about $3 million worth of risk. And I think if the Marlins would have known that they weren't going to get any of those pitchers, I mean, they had reasonable expectation to think, hey, we're the top playoff contender. Everyone's going to fall to us. And I think if they would have known, I think they probably would have. But I think they were told, yeah, we'll give you $3 million. That's all we're risking. We're not risking everyone falling to us. And good for the Reds. Renfroe does almost feel Renfroe's a player that really makes me go, okay, hey, they're really actually trying here, and that made me feel really good. Not just about today, not just about the next month, but as we go into this offseason. All right, hey, there's a little bit of real commitment here. I'm not saying they're going to spend, and I guarantee it, there's going to be a certain section of Reds fans, no matter how much they spend, they're always going to be mad. They're always going to be upset. It's never going to be enough. But I think for the more rational Reds fans, I think there's some real reason for optimism that they may be able to reach that level that we kind of expect they should at least try to get to. But Harrison Bader, guy hit 5 home runs in 9 postseason games last year. So he's clearly capable of getting hot. Will he? I don't know, but at least you're getting an absolutely elite defender. I'll put it up here. I mean, this guy is as good as it gets. I mean, 95th percentile and outs above average, outfield jump as good as it gets, got a great arm, crazy fast. So you're at least getting great defense. No matter what, you can put him in late in the game. He can make plays for you. He's crushed lefties throughout his career, and especially this year. And I think he's a guy that has a chance to get hot. And both of these guys, Renfroe and Harrison Bader, have absolutely mashed a Great American Ballpark. So you're getting 2 guys, Trace, that came from tough situations. Like, could you imagine being a Yankees player this year with all the expectations that team has year after year after year, and they fail? It's got to be miserable to play in New York this type of season, right? So he's getting out of there. It was hilarious. Hit his quote where he said, "Getting to go to Cincinnati to play some meaningful baseball, leaving the Yankees." That just made me have a big smile on my face. But Renfroe the same way. You play for the Angels with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, and you completely collapse. They went ridiculously overboard at the deadline and looked like idiots for it. That situation's got to be ugly. Both of those guys are getting out of bad situations, and they're coming to a situation where you're in a playoff race, but you're also in a playoff race where it's not really all that much pressure. This isn't the Chicago Cubs. This isn't the Dodgers. You're coming to a playoff race where the expectations are pretty reasonable. And, hey, it's a good chance for both these guys to succeed. Both free agents at the end of the year. They got a lot to play for. Hey, both these guys, it could be an audition for next year to play for the Reds as well.
Yeah, I listen, there's no reason to be pessimistic about it. I mean, the Reds, if you watch the Reds the past 2 weeks, they needed anything that you could possibly find. And it just so happens that this situation where there was some guys on the market that were available that were actually worthwhile, that could actually kind of plug and play. And Harrison Bader's a guy that quite frankly is Stuart Fairchild on steroids, right? Like, I mean, you're just automatically, you're upgrading. That's point blank. You're getting an upgrade. Is it good enough? Is it going to be able to kind of get us over that proverbial hump and get us into the postseason? I don't know. I think that's probably where perhaps that you're talking about that small percentage of people that aren't going to be happy no matter what. I'm sure that will be their argument if it doesn't go the way of the Reds. It's like, oh, yeah, nice job. Way to go get those guys, get crawled. But here's the thing. It costs nothing. It means nothing. I would actually argue that there's a small chance. That this weekend, maybe I'm overselling this. I don't know how much money the Reds make in homestands, but it wouldn't shock me if the Reds were to make their money back on what they just spent in the next 2 homestands for the players they just got. Now, again, do I think Harrison Bader and Hunter Renfroe are bringing a bunch of people out in droves because we just signed them? Maybe not, but I think it did rejuvenate the fan base a little bit, Nick. I think that it energized them enough to where, God's honest truth, I don't know how many more people are going to go down to the ballparks tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday, but it's going to be more because of these moves, 100%. Now, again, will it play out on the field? I don't know, but we can't sit here and play Monday morning quarterback per se on this whole situation. We asked for help. If you asked for help and you were begging this ownership to do something, they stepped up and they did something, and they would have done more. That's the part that's kind of refreshing. They would have done more, Nick, but unfortunately they had 2 waivers that went unnoticed or unclaimed because they were already taken, and we can obviously guess who those are. But I have a quick question about Clevenger, because he's a guy that I think you'd have had to have in the books next year. I think it was about $10 million salary. That's not horrible. I mean, he's a guy that's had, I don't say great numbers, but you could argue that he'd have been an upgrade as well. Your overall, I guess, I know I'm throwing you on the spot here really quickly with Clevenger. I guess your overall thoughts on the fact that maybe the Reds just didn't want to handle that contract for next year. I think if he was a free agent at the end of this year, they seems like they might have done it. I don't know. I don't know what the hang up was there with Clevenger.
Yeah, you have to pay $4 million as an option. Again, I'm not going to ever criticize the Reds for a player that just went all the way through waivers.
Right.
Every single contender, the Dodgers, they all had a chance to pick him up, and none of them did. So when you make it that far through, it's really hard to be like, yeah, Reds should have got that guy, right?
No, I understand.
That's kind of how I view it.
Yeah, I guess I'm not saying they should have taken him. I'm just wondering what the hang up was more than likely. It obviously stems back to money, but I
Oh,
don't
I
know if
let me
Clevenger has
let me let me
baggage
clear
or what.
let me clarify this. A $4 million buyout next year. So he has a mutual option. I think it's like 10 million or something like that.
10 million, yeah.
So but you'd have to, if you didn't want him, you'd have to pay a $4 million buyout. So um again, I mean, he went all the way through. I think he's pitched a little better than probably someone like his peripheral numbers would suggest. I never really took a deep dive on him because I didn't really think he was a realistic option. I was looking more at like the Giolito and those types. But yeah, I mean, he went all the way through waivers, so
Yeah.
everyone passed on him.
No, I understand. I just felt like if there was any guy that maybe you scratch your head about a little bit would have been him, but you're right, he did go all the way through. So it's not like there's this it's not like there's this, let's get our pitchforks out, Nick. And I can do that. You guys know how I am. I can get my pitchforks out. All right. I don't know kind of what you expect in regards to Bader and where he's going to play. I'd venture to say center field, but TJ Friedel's played center field so damn good that I don't know. It seems hard to take your guy that you've ride and died with all year long out of center field. But the numbers would suggest that you should do that. Do you think the Reds actually do that or no?
I would be surprised if TJ Friedel's playing center field tomorrow for the first game. I think Bader will be in center field. I think Friedel will be over in left. Friedel's played left. Remember, Friedel played left last year with Nick Senzel in center field. As crazy as that sounds right now, I would expect for sure in that game number one that you have Bader in center field.
Yeah. Well, this sounds wild, and I'm sure there's some analytics that would tell me that I'm wrong with this. It feels like right field at Great American Ballpark. I know the dimensions off the top of my head. It's like 328 down the left field line, 379 to like left center. Then you got 404 dead center. Right center's 370 maybe, and then right field's 325, I believe. Something along those lines. I know that dimensions wise, it doesn't sound accurate, but it feels like right field offers a little more freedom than left field. That I'd almost rather have a guy that's faster in right field in a way. I don't know why I think that. I really don't. It's just like that's what my brain tells me to think. But I don't know. So I guess I was steering towards the idea of maybe having Friedel play right field instead of left field. And then but you have Fairchild, so I can't complain about that to a certain extent. So I don't know. I mean, what's your position on that? Do you think left field or right field's harder to play in Great American based off the dimensions?
Well, I think right field you want to have a better arm because of the
throw to third, but I feel like that's
yeah.
a little overrated, to be honest. How many times do you see a guy from right field throw a guy out at third base? I
Yeah.
don't know. Not a ton.
I don't think I know Friedel's arm strength ranks like in the 50th percentile, but I feel like I don't feel like he has a great arm. I think Jake Fraley's got a pretty good arm, and obviously he would play some of those games in right field. I'm not sure about Fairchild. It's funny. Friedel's arm strength is 52nd percentile, and Fairchild's is 53rd percentile. So they're literally almost dead even. But
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some comfortability factors that goes into that as well. I mean, which guys probably feel more comfortable in which positions. In left field at Great American Ballpark, you're also wanting someone that you can have a little bit of weird bounces. I know it's not Fenway or anything like that, but with the big wall, you can have some weird bounces. You want to have a guy that's comfortable playing those balls off the wall. So yeah.
I don't know. My heart tells me that I want to. My heart tells me that I want somebody that's better defensively to play right field in Cincinnati than left field. And honestly, it's sadly say I'm not trying to give Adam Dunn a ricochet shot, but I think I've seen Adam Dunn play so long in left field that it's like anybody can play out in left field. But that's probably not the truth. And you know what? You might tell me that Adam Dunn was great defensively. I don't know. I don't remember it being like that. Perhaps it was. All right, so you have just a rundown here for a podcast perspective. You had the Reds lineup tomorrow versus a left-handed pitcher. In your perspective, you're going to have leading off Bader in center field, Steer playing second base, Ellie at shortstop, Hunter Renfroe DHing, Christian Encarnacion Strand playing first base. At third base, Marte, in left field, Friedel. You just put catcher because you probably could care less who's catching at this point, whether it's Maley or Stevenson, and then you have Fairchild in right.
Yeah, I think there's also a chance because Senzel stayed on the roster, at least to this point, and I think he's going to stay on the roster because TJ Hopkins is still on the roster, and surely he's going to be the guy that goes down for Jake Fraley. Although actually they don't need to replace him, but nonetheless, I feel pretty. I think Senzel probably actually gets in this lineup since it's a doubleheader in left field. If he's still going to be on this roster, which I think he will be, unless the Reds decide to go with Casali and have a third catcher, which I do think there's an argument to be made for that because it does give you more ability to pinch hit for Tyler Stevenson or Luke Maley. And when you have like some good right matchups, that could actually be valuable. But yeah, the one on the left that you're seeing that's the versus right-hand pitching. I just took that off Fangraphs, but it doesn't have Jake Fraley in there. So Jake Fraley, we expect him to be activated tomorrow. I'm assuming the Reds are going to give Nick Martini still a little bit more of a leash against right-handed pitching. I can't imagine they're going to say, hey, thanks for those 5 great games. We're putting you on the bench. I'm not saying he has a long leash. Like if he has two or three bad games, 2 or 3 offers, they'll probably say, yeah, we're going to get Renfroe in there. But I think probably Martini's in there most days over Renfroe for now. But it's probably on a day-by-day feel basis, I think, as you're kind of evaluating this going forward.
Jake Fraley, you think he obviously platoons with Bader?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they'll be in different spots, but yeah.
I know, but I'm saying like, it's going to be flip-flop.
Yeah.
Not the position per se, but just basically being in the lineup. That seems to be the right move. I mean, that certainly seems to be the right move. Whether or not, like I said, it works out, I don't know. The biggest concern at this point is like, what do you get? What are you getting out of Jake Fraley? If we get the Jake Fraley of old, then we're right back in business. If we get the Jake Fraley that's got a broken toe, and it's apparent that he has a broken toe, then we're right back into a situation where, again, to be clear, the Renfroe and the Bader move helps significantly. It's depth. We need depth. We got a little bit of depth here. We got a puncher's chance. I'm not saying we have a great chance, but we got a puncher's chance. We really do. I seen in the chat that I mentioned obviously splitting and or taking 3 or 4, and heaven forbid, hell, if we sweep the Cubs, that's a whole nother story. I seen someone in the chat saying that there's no way we could take 2-2. Hey, listen, I'm not trying to say that that's what we want by any means, but let's not also act like a split isn't the end of the world. We're one game back from a playoff spot right now, and have you looked at we've all done the schedule look, right? I mean, if you're a Reds fan and you've been paying attention, you've looked at the schedule in September. This isn't new news. And again, I'm not rooting for that, Nick, but I'm not going to cast that as the end of the world if they split with the Cubs.
I think the Reds have the pitching advantage in all 4 games. I mean, Graham Ashcraft versus a guy making his second career start.
Yes, they do.
I'm going with Graham Ashcraft. Ben Lively versus, we think it's going to be Shane Green in the second game of the doubleheader. Shane Green's a guy who's made this incredible comeback, but this will be his first appearance in the big leagues this year. I mean, maybe that's a toss-up, but it's not a clear advantage for the Cubs, right? Andrew Abbott versus Javier Assad. If it's the Abbott we've seen the last couple of games, it could be the Cubs, but
right.
If you get anything close to the Andrew Abbott that we saw for the first couple months of the season, man, that's a huge advantage for the Reds. And then Brandon Williamson against a guy with the 5.5 ERA and Jamison Talion. I mean, look, it's all right in front of here for the Reds. Now, I mean, I think if we're being honest, the most realistic expectation is probably these two teams end up splitting. But there probably be one of those games that kind of hangs in the balance that swings. And yeah, I mean, I think the Reds got a good chance this weekend. I think I'm probably honestly more confident in the Reds' chances to at least win 2, maybe 3, than like their overall chances to make the playoffs. Like, I think this is sets up pretty well for the Reds this weekend. And they got a day off with a fresh bullpen with an extra guy they're going to add tomorrow.
Yeah, one thing I want to add here really quickly for those that care, shout out Betfred Sportsbook, is it's even money tomorrow, straight up. Like, you don't see that a whole lot in Major League Baseball. It's a toss up, -110, -110 on both sides. So, again, I know the Cubs are hot. I get the Cubs are hot. They're playing really good baseball right now. But you know what? The tides always turn at some point. We've seen it. This team has been a roller coaster all year long. It does feel like it. Maybe it's just the vibes. Maybe it's just the whole you add 2 guys. You're starting to feel better about yourself. Maybe we're overthinking it. Maybe you guys can crush me later and say, oh, Trace bought the hype. He drank the Kool-Aid. It just feels like this is the Reds' time to make a run a little bit. It definitely does. And now whether or not that works out in our favor and at the end of the year that means that they made the postseason, I don't know. But it definitely feels like the Reds are going to start playing some better baseball. And you get a day off. You're at home. You got a 4-game set. As you mentioned, Nick, we got lucky. Is lucky the right word? We got lucky that we didn't catch the Cubs in a perfect rotation against the Reds. So
no, we didn't get lucky. The Cubs are taking this series for granted because they could pitch Justin Steele on Sunday on normal rest, and they aren't. They're not taking the Reds serious. So I hope the Reds go and smack them around all weekend, and then we can rub that in Reed Mouse's face on Monday. Yeah, how saving Justin Steele for the Giants work out for you, bro?
Well, we like that. I mean, Nick, we got to be that's good for us. We wanted to save him for the Giants. We're all about that. We think that that's a good move for the Cubs. Yeah, let's let him go beat the Giants. I'm all for that. We'll sweep the Cubs and then they beat the Giants and then we'll just keep it moving. I think that but overall, I guess to kind of round out our points here on these 2 guys, listen, it's a lottery. It's a sprint, right? It's a sprint. Doesn't mean you're automatically going to get the player that's on the back of the baseball card. But you might get lucky and one of these 2 guys gets scorching hot. And Bader's a guy that can steal bags too, man. I mean, I hope he doesn't let me down. Hunter Renfroe, I'll let that be your guy. Harrison Bader, my kind of guy.
I'm higher on Harrison Bader's ability to help this team just because of the role that he can fill with the elite defense, crushes lefties. Renfroe doesn't crush lefties as much as like Bader does. Renfroe is a more balanced hitter, still probably a below average hitter. And that's why I do still think Jake Fraley is really important because if you look up and down this lineup here, I mean, Jake Fraley, even if he's like 80% of himself, he's still probably a better option versus right-handed pitching than Renfroe, than Bader, than Senzel, than Fairchild, whoever you want to fill in there. He definitely, I think has even if he's not at 100%, is still probably a better option. But I tell you what, I love this lineup against left-handed pitching. People might not, but I think if you really look at the numbers and you really dig into it, and then you factor in the defense, I think this is a really solid. I think this is a almost a playoff caliber lineup, at least against left-handed pitching. I think it's right-handed pitching. I think it's a little suspect. I think the Reds are still going to probably struggle to score runs, but I don't think this is a lineup a left-handed pitcher is going to want to face.
Ned in the chat brings up an excellent point. He said that CES might just overshadow everyone. He's got the chance. He of all the guys that we've been waiting on, CES is a guy that could do it, man. I mean, we've seen what he done, obviously, at AAA, and that's AAA, and I know everybody scoffs at that. I know everybody's like, oh, well, that's AAA. That's down in Louisville. It doesn't count. I don't know, man. It should count for something. I mean, the dude was hitting home runs every other night. He's driving guys in every other night, going 3 for 4. I know one thing. You can go down and look at some of the statistics for the Louisville Bats. Not everyone does that, Nick. Not everyone does that. So to sit here and think that CES that isn't capable of doing that in the big leagues, I'm going to tell you, don't hold your breath, man, because you might be wrong about that. I'm all for that take. I think CES has a chance to carry us, and that's the beautiful thing. You look it up and down this lineup right now, really quickly. TJ Friedel's scaring me a little bit, Nick. If we're being completely honest, I feel like he's kind of regressed a little bit here in the last few weeks. I'm a little concerned about the ABs he's had. Spencer Steer, he's been rock solid all year. Ellie De La Cruz, guy that can get red hot. And you feel like, at some point he might be that 2-week player he was when he first came up again. Nick Martini's only played 5 games, so it's hard to really say that you know what you're going to get out of him. He's played out of his mind. Tyler Stevenson, him and Luke Maley, we'll see what we get out of him. I'm not expecting a ton, but if we get something out of him, great. And then you got CES, Hunter Renfroe, Will Benson, and Noel Marte. Those are 4 names right there that I could argue that can carry you as well. So we'll see. They're young. They got some veterans, Nick. And at this point, you can't sit there and look at yourself in the mirror and say that your franchise, your ownership group, your front office didn't try to help.
And I think it also takes some of the pressure off of some of these guys that, all right, hey, we got some reinforcements. If guys need a day off, it's not like, we have to run everyone out every day because we have no one else. We're really the bottom of the barrel here. And one other interesting thing about Hunter Renfroe is I think he's played 5 games at first base this year. So you could get a little crazy. If you need to DH someone, you could play him at first base, or you could even go really crazy and play CES at third base, Renfroe at first base to get a better lineup in. I don't know if sacrificing the defense outweighs whoever else the player you're getting in is, but that is another option that at least David Bell has. And it's an option too, if you get into a late game situation where you want to get into some pinch hitting, that might be more where you'd use it. Maybe not start a game like that, but if you're down a couple runs and you're just trying to do anything you can to come back, you have the ability to say, hey, we can put CS at third, we can put Renfroe at first, just to kind of get some pinch hit matchups, and it does give them a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add here. We obviously have the who, what, when, where, and why, the weekend series edition. Friday, they play 2 tomorrow, baby. Play 2.
You're going to be down at both, huh?
I'm going to be down at both. Yeah. Listen, I'm not a guy that says empty things, when I say something, I mean it. When I say something, I mean it. Outside of having the show open already, Nick, besides the show intro, if I say something's going to be done at a certain time, it usually is. So I'm going to go back down there tomorrow for both of them. If anyone's going to be there, man, feel free to shout me out. I'll say hi. We'll hang out, check out some Reds baseball together, and hopefully they win. I'm going to be loud. I can tell you that. There's a good chance that you're going to hear me on the broadcast if there's not that many people there.
I love it. Well, hopefully you can bring home 2 wins. I like these matchups this weekend. Look, does it mean the Reds are going to win? No, it doesn't. But I think that they're decent matchups for the Reds. The last series really wasn't. You were going up against Cobb and Webb. That's the Giants' 2 best arms in a 3-game series. But I think these matchups are a little bit better for the Reds, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm going to be a little nervous, but I'm excited. I just want to keep it going, Trace. I really just want to keep it going. Obviously I want the Reds to get to the playoffs, but I really just want this to last a couple more weeks. Like it's almost like, just give me another week. Just give me another week of meaningful baseball. And then at the end of that week, just one more. Just one more.
You're right. Hunter Renfroe's his baseball savant there that you showed earlier looked like cotton candy Dippin' Dots. See that? Some dark blue on there now. Some dark blue. Got some red too, though. Looking like some Dippin' Dots.
Well, he had like 9 home runs last year at Great American Ballpark when he was with the Brewers. He was just a Reds killer last year at the Ultimate. So I don't know. He's a guy that has the power. Can he get hot over a couple weeks? Maybe. A lot of home games. A lot of games in the small ballpark, and he does have some legitimate home run power.
Yeah, no, he does. All right, we got some super chats, baby. Got some super chats here. They're popping in left and right. Holy smokes. Big Corey, the Viking helmet guy. We had our moment, didn't we, Viking helmet guy? He said he's going to both games. Tracy and Nick, bring in the luck. We need it. We need all the luck we can get. Gabe K. I'm a Reds fan. That's who I am. I'm a Reds fan. That's where I stand. I'm not ready for this playoff chase to be over. Please, boys, win 3 of 4. It doesn't really go with the song, but I did my best, Gabe.
You fought
man.
through it.
Hey, listen, what? This is an amazing season, man. I mean, when you just step back and relax for a minute, and you don't have to watch bad Reds baseball over a couple day stretch, and you're able to kind of clear the mechanism. What a great season. What an unbelievable season. Really proud of the fact that this team's I'll say this on a personal level. I genuinely got done playing baseball. It was my life for so long, and it literally was just all I ever did. And I fell out of love with baseball for a little while because, again, it was just a little toxic how much you poured your life into something. And then I genuinely had not watched a whole lot of baseball, as you can probably tell by Paul DeJong, for years, man, for years. This is the first year I've started watching baseball religiously again, and I can tell you, man, I cannot wait. Even if the Reds, for whatever reason, something happens, I can't tell you how excited I am for the future of this team, the future of the game too. I don't want to turn this into a big long rant, but I just think baseball is so much more enjoyable to watch now. So much more.
Yeah, no question about it. Good question here from David Brown. Just a thought, where would India fit in with the new additions? I mean, look, I think the Reds improved their lineup. There's still plenty of spots to go around, brother.
Yeah.
They're better, but it's still not, especially against right-handed pitching. It's still not a bona fide lineup. I mean, I think by the time India, if it's a huge if, he's able to come back, there's probably someone that's kind of made it clear, like maybe it's Marty, just he is completely not ready. Maybe it's someone else is completely struggling, or God forbid, maybe there's another injury. But I would not worry about where can you fit India in. If he can come back and he's healthy, you'll get him in.
Yeah, good question. Mark Fetter says, bring on the Cubs, baby. $5 super chat. Love that. Jordan Lane coming in with the $5 super chat says, I noticed the starters for Seattle series. My man's looking ahead. Look at Jordan. Let's not get ahead of yourself, though, Jordan. Let's focus on the Cubs. But you're not playing, so you're allowed to. You're allowed to look ahead. You know what I'm saying? If you're not playing in the games, don't worry about it. He looked ahead. He said he did not see Luis pitching against us. He obviously means Castillo. And, yeah, that's good news. I like that. Big fan of that.
Yeah, Brian Wu, Bryce Miller, and Logan Gilbert. First two are rookies. I think Gilbert has been pitching really well, though. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good matchups. All things considered. And then an off day. We got a lot of off days. A lot of off days in September. That's going to be kind of weird. We had like these. It felt like after the All-Star break, man.
It was a lot.
There was not a lot of off days. So it's going to be interesting to see how that maybe can help. And that'll definitely help the bullpen. There's no question about that.
This West Coast trip, boy, I tell you what, it about took your boy down. I mean, I'm struggling. I hadn't had this bad a sleep pattern since I was in college, man. It's been pretty tough, pretty rough around the edges. But you know what they say? No excuses. No excuses, Nick. All right. I don't know how do you want to go about the show now? Do you just want to kind of have fun and run through it? You think you got what you got? Are we good on that, or?
I'm good, whatever. I mean, we still got 282 people in here.
Right. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat.
Yeah. Let me play a video real quick. And while we let some chat stuff feed in, any questions, we'll get to them. I'll star them when we come back. Podcast tomorrow. Really, really excited about this. Sully from the No Layups. Wait, did I say it right?
No laying up. You got it.
No Laying Up podcast, the #1 golf podcast in the United States of America, is a diehard Reds fan. Enjoyed it. So I put a little clip up on Twitter. We'll play that while some questions roll in, and you got to check this out tomorrow. The Reds have added Harrison Bader and Hunter Renfroe off of this crazy waiver wire at the 11th hour that a lot of us, even diehard baseball fans, didn't even know players of this caliber or even a possibility? What's your instant gut reaction to this news that literally just happened moments before we hit record?
Look, I'm very, very excited about Bader and Renfroe. I think they're great additions. I think initially it was kind of a little bummed at not getting any of the pitchers, but after a little time to digest it, it shouldn't take very much time to digest. It's very obvious. Like, we couldn't have done better. Like, those guys weren't available, right? There's no one that passed us that went to a contending team that we're especially worried about, I wouldn't say. They addressed some needs. They needed some bodies. They needed some dumb bats. They needed some defense. It's a good day. It's a good sign, too, for 2024 and beyond, I think, because, after this season, the Reds are going to be, by my calculations, sitting at, $45-50 million maybe base before we even start in terms of salary. Like, it's going to be time to spend some money, and their willingness to take on, even if it's just a little bit of money in the remaining part of this year, is a good sign.
All right, so yeah, your podcast feed tomorrow morning, that full interview was like 50 minutes. I thought we were going to record for like 10 minutes, and Sully, man, he's awesome. That dude loves the Cincinnati Reds, which is just so cool. Cool. It's always cool to have people that are on national platforms that love the Reds, and he shared some really cool stuff. You'll have to check it out. All right, I got some questions to run through here. Trace, you read them. I'll pull them up.
Yeah, Christopher.
I'm gonna have a hard time doing both.
No, you're fine. Christopher Rees asked the question. He says, "Percentage of making the playoffs? Question mark. Is it 25%? Just tell me there's a chance." Are you saying there's a chance? Oh, there's a chance.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what the percentage is, though. What's Fangraphs going to tell us?
Fangraphs says 15. I'll give them a little more than that because of the schedule with the additions. They didn't move after the additions. I don't know when they add like the depth charts and all that because it is depth chart related. I say it's probably closer. I think 25 is good. I'm with you, Chris. Let's roll.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's plenty of bets that I've lost when I've seen that the percent chance of the other team winning was 25%. So I can tell you that 25% does hit from time to time. Ohio Laker 513 says, "Are you all pleased with the additions?" I think, early in the show, obviously we shared our beliefs in most of these guys. But to recap, if you're just joining us, I think that your front office and your ownership group put their money where their mouth was. They ponied up. I know it wasn't a ton of money. I know. Let me also say this. You ready for this? This is a little bit of a bomb. If you're going to clip us up and you're going to make fun of us for being excited about getting a couple guys that we otherwise didn't think we were going to get because our front office bought some guys, then with all due respect, you're a loser. I mean, if you're going to downplay what the ownership group does when they actually go do something, but then you do nothing but sit there and complain about the ownership at nauseum. I mean, I'm not saying that they won y'all over today. I'm not saying, oh, go kiss Bob and Phil's feet. But at some point, like, just say, hey, you're happy. This is great. This is good. Just don't be a loser. I mean, at some point, don't root against the Reds. If you're a Reds fan, it's much more enjoyable, I can promise you, just to root for them.
Yeah, if you were still finding something to be cranky about today, I genuinely feel sorry for you, man. Like, I'm sure there's a few. I'm sure the ones that clip it up had some tweets in the drafts ready to go, thinking the Reds weren't going to add anyone today, and they were fired up and they were ready, and then they were like, "Oh crap, what do I do now?"
I know. Conrad Biggums, he always has some good stuff in the chat, man. I keep an eye on some guys. Conrad's always got some good things to say in the chat. How about Hendrick hitting 3 bombs in as many days? Well, listen, I don't want to sound like a pessimist after I just said you should be an optimist, but I'm as pessimistic about Hendrick as possible. Good for him, though. Good for him. I'm happy for those people in Dayton that got to see that.
Yeah, I mean, still young, but he's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of work to do. But hey, he did this last year too. He did this exact same thing last year. He looked completely lost all year, then had this like really great like last 2 weeks of the season. So, yeah, I'm not gonna go too far in that.
Bobby Gunnell says, "Do you think the Reds will sign a big name guy in free agency?" That seems like a tough question. That's very what's the word that I'm looking for? That's very vague, right? Big name is very vague. I'm gonna go with no, not a big name, because that seems like a lot of money, and I think this franchise has realized that they don't want any more Moustakas contracts per se, so they're just gonna keep trying to promote within and get prospects and pick their spots with some 1 or 2 year kind of free agent type guys. Your thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, funny thing is, I actually talked to this a lot with Solly today on the podcast for tomorrow. That was something he wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
He was diving in, and so a lot of good stuff in that. I think I don't think the Reds are going to look for like the big long-term deals like you just kind of hinted at. I think they're going to be looking more short-term. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Reds kind of go the route that we've seen some teams go, where they pay some high dollar short-term deals where you have a guy who will say, hey, instead of paying this guy 5 years, 150 million, we'll pay 2 years, 60 million or something like that. A higher annual, but in a shorter term, because I think that helps the Reds not get too stuck with contracts that in years, and it kind of really bog them down.
We got some super chat bombs out here, dude.
I know I can't keep up. I'm trying here.
We're making some money tonight, baby.
All right, we'll skip to the super chats and then we'll get back.
Molly, man, Molly's been loyal in this chat for a little while too. Now I see Molly's starting to become a little bit of an OG up in this place. She says, Nick, Trace, what do you? This is funny. Nick, Trace, what do you think is a waste of money inside the stadium? The Pampers nursing suite equals huge waste of space and money. How many babies are really at the games anyway? Don't parents want to actually watch the game? Molly, I'm glad that's coming from you, because I'm telling you right now, if we said that, I'm actually going to kind of stay away from that, because I think that's a trap, Molly. Molly, are you laying out the cheese? Are you sliding the cheese out, Molly? I don't know, man. That seems like one I might want to stay away from. But to be somewhat serious about this for a half a second, Pampers, the nursing suite, no free ads. But I think that they did that because of a player's wife was trying to nurse and they didn't really have a good spot for him at the game. So I think they created that because of that. Because it was, I don't want to say it was a huge controversy, but it was kind of like, I think it was a little bit of a black eye on the Reds, like not having a place where women could go and nurse while the game was going on. I could be wrong about that, but again, you're not going to see me picketing about the Pampers suite. I'll tell you that, Molly.
Yeah, I'm staying away from that one. No comment. Great question, appreciate you, but yeah, I'm staying away. All right, go to another super chat here.
Gabe K, the super chat. He's a super chat fiend at this point, and we love you for it. Who's an under the radar prospect we should keep an eye out for to potentially join the big league roster next season?
I mean, I feel like Blake Dunn's kind of an easy one, just because he's been so.
Blake Dunn. Blake Dunn's the answer. Blake Dunn's the answer.
He's going to be the player of the year. Yeah, I mean, I think if he comes into camp and has a great spring, he's like 24 years old. There's not really any reason to hold him down. He's one. Someone mentioned this the other day. Shout out to whoever you are, Rhett Lauder.
I think it's Rhett Lauder too. You're taking my guys here. Rhett Lauder. You know what Rhett Lauder reminds me of a little bit, Nick, is like Andrew Abadis, like esque, right? Like a guy that's a little more mature, probably again a little more polished. Not saying he's ready to play ready to go in the big leagues like right this second, but you literally said the last two guys. I'm gonna come up with someone else while we're talking here. I'm gonna try to think through some guys, but
all right, I'm gonna let you do. Should I say
why do you think Rhett Lauder?
What is this? He's a college arm. I mean,
right?
And everything you hear about him is polished. So, yeah, I mean, the Reds are going to be in a win now-ish mode next year, and yeah, I mean, if you think he can help you right away, I don't have an issue with it. I would be shocked if he makes like the opening day roster, but let's just say it sounds like the Reds probably they start him at Double-A next year. Let's say he comes out and throws like 5 gyms in a row. The Reds might just say, "Let's go, let's give him a shot." One other maybe would be Rhys Hines. And he's kind of scuffled a little bit down the stretch here, but he's just been in the system so long. They kind of need to get to a point where they kind of figure out what they got with him. So he's maybe, another one that's kind of out there.
Yeah. I mean, Chase Petty's a little too young, but yeah, I mean, Blake Dunn's the guy for me, but that's just because he's been so damn good this year. And then, like you could always say Connor Phillips. I don't know what the phrase under the radar is. Under the radar in this show is not so under the radar. If you went out into the streets of Cincinnati and you started dropping these names, they probably would have no clue who we're talking about. Yeah, Aguilar is a fun one. Reds and Four's probably got like 10 of them.
Yeah, just all in the back pocket.
Reds and Four, if you put enough of them on there, one of them will hit, though. That's the way to do it. That's not a bad move, Reds and Four. You can always go back and screenshot one of those comments. Mike Yo says, "Hey Trace, will you come look for me at Gate J entrance by the Hall of Fame and team shop when you enter the ballpark? I'll be there working the gates and got hella pins on my Reds lanyard." Mikey, all right, I got to enter Gate J. That's the Hall of Fame. Yeah. So just to be clear, Mikey, you can say yes in the chat. That's the gate that essentially is basically right straight away from the banks. So when you're walking right down the Banks Boulevard, you go straight into that entrance. Is that correct? Hopefully you can say if that's true or not in the chat. If it is, I'll do that. I'll look for you.
Austin, I got two screens going. I'm trying to star them on one and then I do that. So I'm like kind of looking off. I've actually looked at another screen. So I promise I'm okay. You don't need to send the rescue dogs up to Northeast Ohio after me. You got to help me on this. I have no idea what this even means, but it sounds like a really good question. And Mikey says, "Yeah." Mikey says, "Yes, sir."
All right, beautiful. Alex Wallace, JJ Cooper, send an X out. That maybe MLB should borrow the NFL model for waivers. Will this happen next year?
What's the model? I have no idea what it is.
I like how you called it an X out. That threw my brain through a pretzel for a minute. I'm like, what? An X out? Can we just still call them tweets? Can we at least do that?
I don't know. That does sound pretty cool, though. Send X out.
Everybody's on me about the intro. Alex, I'm going to answer your question. Everyone's on me about the intro. Listen, this is Nick. Nick is he's the driver today, baby. I'm just sitting back, relaxing. I ain't got to worry about nothing. I'm just talking to a microphone. That's all I have to do.
Switching spots, so you're in charge now.
Oh,
maybe
man.
Make me not look as weird either now. It still look weird.
No, you look good. I think people were that's how you know that the chat loves their traditional ways. We got people in the chat telling us that we're backwards. I'm like, man, these guys pay attention. They pay attention. All right. As far as the model for waivers, will this happen next year? This is where, being an NFL casual, I don't 100% know exactly how they do it. I'm assuming he means that you can actually see what's going on. I don't know why Major League Baseball doesn't just make it to where you claim who you claim and the next team gets notified who they claim. Basically, he said that the Reds would have only landed one guy. I don't know. Alex, I'm confused. One claim per team. Okay, we get it now. If we got one guy, I'm taking Harrison Bader.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I would have taken Lucas Giolito, but if it was just
I know, but you guys keep saying that, but it just feels like I know everyone keeps saying that. I know it. I get it. But just listen to me for a minute. Our pitching hasn't been bad. It's not been bad at all. And Giolito can only affect the game once every 5 days at best. At the very best. We went 9-1 with Luke Weaver. Like, you might not like that. You might hate that. You might say, Trace, you're an idiot. But we went 9-1 with Luke Weaver. Okay? Harrison Bader, he gets hotter than a firecracker. He wins us way more games than Giolito would ever dream of winning. We only got him for 1 month. This isn't like you get him for 5 years, guys. This is a 1 month thing. I'm just saying, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe Harrison Bader's going to suck and everyone's going to make fun of Trace, which is possible. It's very possible. Is it probable? I don't think it's probable, but it's possible. I'm just telling you, I'm much rather, if you're telling me I have one guy, I'd much rather have a position player the way this offense has been going right now, because they could win us more than just one game. And I know that war and all those things, it's very hard to win a game. You know what I'm saying? I get all that, but I'm just saying, I think that they have a better chance of helping the team make the postseason with an quote unquote guy that can play every day versus a guy that pitches once every 5 days. All right.
Well, you could also run Lucas Giolito straight into the ground because you have these off days and you could be pitching him like
I don't know.
not necessarily, you don't have to go a full turn through. I also love you could right away shut down Abbott for 2 weeks and be like, hey, we're fine. Shut him down for 2 or 3 times through the rotation. That's another thing I would have liked about that. But I'm with you. Bader's my second. I like Bader probably more than the relievers. I think he has a chance. He has a chance to really get hot. And Renfroe does too, but I think Bader's a little bit different. He's the guy that, man, if he has a month with his defense, he could be like a 2-win player in a month. Could.
I know.
Could.
No, he could. Could. You always these guys are on waivers for a reason. Let's not forget that. Ryan K says, do you think India comes back if this team gets back within a wild card spot, or does he shut it down for the season regardless? I think he comes back when he's healthy and ready to go. I mean, this team, maybe I just don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's India's decision. I think the Reds would love to have him back personally.
Yeah, he's running in San Francisco, but he's been out so long. He's going to have to go on a pretty decent rehab assignment. He definitely can help this team, though. So, I think a lot of it depends on where the Reds are. I think if let's say, God forbid, the Reds, go 2-8 over the next 10 games, I think India's probably just going to get shut down. But if they're still in this race, he's going to try to probably fight back.
Yeah. Ohio Laker says, Kirby, do you root for any other sports outside of baseball?
Love college basketball. That's my my thing. And honestly, the way that I follow and I guess now cover baseball and college basketball, that is more than enough for any human to consume sports. So I know people kill me for not really watching football, but to be honest, if I watched football, man, I would have zero marriage left. So what about you? What's your favorite? Is it football? Is your favorite sport other than baseball?
Me? I don't know, man. I'm a nut. I don't have any marriage left, so I watch them all, baby. I like them all. No, my wife loves me very much. I have a very happy marriage, okay? All right? Before I get myself in trouble. Although I did see my hairline today. It's getting pretty bad. I better shut my mouth because there won't be anyone else out there that would take any kind of date night with Trace Fowler again. So I better watch my mouth. Mr. Juan says, what's the Reds starting rotation next year? And why is Brandon Williamson not in it? Mr. Juan, come on. You trying to trigger me?
I think he is.
You throwing that, I see that night crawler. That night crawler is just right there. And I see the bobber above it, but I'm like, I really want that night crawler. I'm going to attack. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to lay off that night crawler. He's not in it. He's only not in it if he doesn't pitch nowhere. If he reverts back to what he used to be. If he pitches like he has in the past 6-7 starts, Brandon Williamson is in the starting rotation. Let's not act like he's not.
The only thing I would say is I think most of us want the Reds to add a veteran free agent starting pitcher. All right? If you add a veteran free agent starting pitcher, maybe a Sonny Gray reunion, that would be cool. Talk about it on the pod tomorrow. So you have veteran starting pitcher. You have Hunter Green. You have Nick Lodolo. Lord bless him. Andrew Abbott and Graham Ashcraft. That's 5. So he could be on the outside looking in. But as I've said a million times, someone always gets hurt in spring training. So I hope the Reds have 8 or 9 legitimate starting pitching options. I think back to 2020, Anthony DeSclafani got bumped out of that rotation at one point. That's the kind of problems you want to have, where you're bumping a guy out of the rotation that's a good pitcher, that is valuable, but you just have so much because you can never have too much because our top 2 guys barely pitched all year this year. You never know what's going to happen.
Nick, I love that you're able to power through. You're not looking at the chat, which is a good thing. You start looking at the chat for too long, man. They'll distract you. They'll make you laugh. Seth Reddington says, Nick, thoughts on the Reds giving a shot to Amir Garrett? Feel like he would fit the team so well. Seth, I cannot disagree, but that's why you're not asking me. You're asking Nick. But golly day, I just no. Go ahead, Nick.
I'm about to get anyone on a minor league contract. Sign all the guys on minor league deals you want. I'm forward to that. I don't know if that was the question, but
that was Nick's nicest way of saying that no is the answer. But if he wants to sign as a minor leaguer, then sure. Nick doesn't really like saying bad things about people. Bryant Miller, man, these people are killing me. Trace needs a Theo Von ear transplant. It's getting bad, man. Look at it. It's getting bad. That thing's receding. You know, it doesn't look bad. Which side is it? That side's pretty bad. Side's pretty bad. I don't know. He might have to get some ads in here. I'm not. You know what though? Listen, chat. You can hold me to this. Chat, you can hold me to this. I hope I'm not talking bad about anybody in the chat, but maybe this is a good heart for heart. Maybe you'll have to look at yourself in the mirror tonight and ask yourself the hard questions. If I ever get to a point in my life, okay, where I got like a few strings left on top and I got it combed over and I'm like just trying to stretch it as much as I possibly can, and I got kind of that cul-de-sac going. Just tell me. Say, Trace, you got to go. It's got to go. Just get rid of it. Just shave it all off. You live with it and you let it rip. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's it. I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I'm in a position where I let it go yet. I think I'm all right. Ned Flanders, you'll be ready to run for president. I see people in this thing saying hair plugs. I don't think I got that in me either. I don't know. I'd have to be rich. Aren't hair plugs rich people stuff or no? Am I wrong on that? Back to actual real Reds. Joey Ricotta is asking if Brett Kennedy's going tomorrow.
Joey's a great dude. Joey is actually the host of Cubs on Tap podcast. Really, really cool podcast. Much better Cubs fans than Reed Mouse. Much more enjoyable people. Really? Yeah. So Joey's
those existed.
Joey's asking a legit question because he doesn't know who's pitching game 2. Joey, I think it's going to be Ben Lively, but they may use an opener. That's what they did the last time his turn came through. They used an opener. I think they actually used 2 pitchers before they got too Lively, and they ended up throwing like 5 1/3 from like innings 4 through 9. So I think Lively is going to be the bulk guy in game 2, Joey. Shout out to you, Joey. Hope you're doing well. Hope your Cubs get their ass kicked this weekend.
That's right. I hope they're terrible. Robert Bryant says, will Bader grow his hair to compete with India? I don't know. Will Bader grow his beard back? Will he do that?
Did he have a beard before he came to New York? Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a little.
Did the whole.
He had a little rough. You know, you get tired. You're lazy. It's called laziness.
What do you think about the New York facial policy?
I think it's stupid, but I think it's just one more thing the Yankees do to try to act like they're better than everyone else, and it's just not true. It's not true at all. It makes no sense anymore. Got to be clean shaven. You know, I mean, I don't know. I just think it's a loser. It's a loser move, man. It's a loser move.
They're not better than the Reds this year. They just put a guy on waivers that can't wait to get out of New York and come join a contending ball club in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think you're stretching the truth there a little bit. I mean,
his words, not mine. His words.
Yes. Yeah, you must have not watched the whole interview. That guy was getting choked up about leaving New York. He grew up on.
I'm excited to join the Reds and play some meaningful baseball in September. That was the quote. There may have been a few like before and after things, but that was an actual quote. So he's excited to come to Cincinnati.
Steve asks,
baseball.
Steve does ask, how'd you like Bader's last New York interview? I thought it was nice. I thought it showed a human side of him, and I thought it was nice. For those that didn't get a chance to see it, Bader was just saying that his dream when he was growing up was basically to play in Yankee Stadium, and he grew up right outside of Yankee Stadium, and very similar to I guess Matt McClain and Spencer Steer when they went back to Anaheim, it would be the same kind of concept. So there's a reason, and there's an understanding as to why he would have those feelings about New York, and he shared those, and he said that they could never take away what he did in New York and the postseason he had last year. So shout out to him. But he did say, Nick, that he was excited to come to Cincinnati. I'm not saying he didn't say that. Mike Yo, you're just flying through these.
Well, there's not really questions, so Nick's been growing his if we want some,
how does that look if you let it go? What's that do?
It would be awful. So I'm like a middle-aged guy at this point. I can like grow like plenty here, but like nothing like to fill in. So I would have like these like patches. It would look really bad. So yeah, if I go like 3 or 4 days, it really starts looking. I could do a couple days, but like what you got going on, I could never go that far.
Yeah.
But I won't need hair plugs. So
damn. It's getting hot. It's getting heated in here. Woo. Whew. I'll have to start defending myself here soon.
You didn't expect this.
No, I'm getting chewed up getting chewed up in the chat. Kirby's bringing up hair plugs again. Man. Check it out. Getting pretty bad. Mr. Ron.
Real question.
Mr. Ron, who in our bullpen is still around for next year? Oh man. Alexis Diaz.
Give me 1 second here. Let me pull up the actual payroll.
Hey, does anybody while we have a minute, he's looking up the payroll. Does anybody in the chat want to say? Does anyone in the chat want to say, "Hey, Trace, your Buck Farmer take wasn't horrendous"? I'm saying.
What was your Buck Farmer take? I don't even remember at this point.
You don't remember my Buck Farmer take?
I don't. I'm sorry.
I mentioned that they could get something back pretty significant for him, and if they didn't, they could keep him. But if they did, I think it's time to strike while the iron's hot.
He's interesting. I mean, he'll be 33 next year. He's a free agent. But I mean, you could, in theory, bring him back. I don't think he's going to be like a super expensive guy, but he's a guy. Hey, the Reds signed him on a minor league contract, brought him back. Yeah, I don't know why he wouldn't want to come back. But looking through the bullpen, so Buck Farmer is a free agent. I think he's the only actual free agent. Lucas Sims is interesting because he reaches his final year of arbitration next year, starts to get a little expensive. Obviously, he's worth that money, but he could maybe be a guy that you look to trade this offseason if he has some value, and maybe it's one of those like puzzle piece moves to get like your best value team. Like he's worth the money, but if you could trade, get a prospect, sign someone else, it might be better for the Reds overall. Alex Young still he still has 3 years of arbitration. I don't even know how that's possible. Guy feels like he's like 40. Derek Wall still has 2 more years of arbitration. TJ Antone still has 2 more years of arbitration. And then Ian Jabot hasn't even reached arbitration yet. So I would imagine most of those guys are back unless it's a roster crunch thing. But I don't know. You got any?
No, this is out of my league. You know that. I'm in a position where, quite frankly, I don't really want to speak a whole lot on roster management and things of that nature because I've just not had enough time to really dive deep into that weed. I think it's something I could possibly do this offseason. Been a little busy this year, but that's one. There's 2 things I want to do in the offseason. One is really getting out there and working on this show and making it, just polishing it up, trying to make it as nice as we possibly can. And the other thing is to really dive into the weeds of analytics and try to learn the other side of the aisle a little more. I guess it's not like I'm against analytics, but I definitely want to try to be pretty knowledgeable about it all. I want to know the foundation of where all of these kind of numbers come from and what they actually mean versus it just being kind of some mathematical equation I'm just assuming in my head. Randy does bring up Fernando Cruz. You're a big Fernando Cruz guy.
He's a piece. I wouldn't be shocked if Fernando Cruz is the Reds' top setup guy next year.
What about Duarte?
Yeah, Duarte, I like him. I mean, they got all those guys for as long as they pretty much want. I mean, most of those guys a couple of those guys at least will probably be guys that just get cut that they have control of, but you just kind of run out of, numbers. Like Derek Law last year was actually removed from the 40-man roster. Reds re-signed him, I think, to a minor league deal, and then he won a job in camp. So they had him last year. Anyone could pick them up. No one did. Reds got him back. So you could probably see a couple more guys kind of fit that mold.
Yeah. Duarte is filthy. Joey's saying that. I tell you what, I still have hate mail in my inbox from me saying I like Duarte. I don't get that. I don't understand why people think that's a bad take. But Brian asking you a question says, Nick, I seem to remember a bunch of chat trashing Fernando Cruz on opening day. You remember that? Well,
I didn't remember opening day, man. That was
you don't. Come on.
Feels like an eternity ago. All I remember is Jason Vossler hitting a triple and Sean.
Oh, yeah, that was funny.
That was an all-timer.
Yeah, so the person that founded Chatterbox with me went to opening day with me, Nick, and a few other guys, and he was just trashing Jason Vossler, just dragging him all day. As soon as the lineups came out, Sean was just absolutely talking mad, about Jason Vossler. I'm glad Jason's family wasn't around us. Otherwise, we would have been in a fight. And seeing him rip that double down the right field line was just hilarious. Triple. Don't want to take anything away from Jason. That triple down the right field line on opening day was hilarious. Just looking over at him when he did that. And Sean was just happy to eat his words, I guess. What's this? Chatterbox presents high school recap coming fall of 2024. I don't know what that means.
I think he wants us to do like what the local news stations do.
Oh, really?
Don't they do like a Friday night blitz or something?
Yeah, that's a good point. The blitz won't say who the blitz is by, but the blitz. Yeah, good.
Oh, is that channel? I honestly didn't even know that was that.
Yeah, the blitz, Nick. Yeah, the blitz. Good job, Nick. Yeah, the blitz.
I thought that was PBS.
No, it's fine. I don't know. We'll see. Who knows what happens with Chatterbox, guys? I don't know. I really don't. I throw my hand in the air. Some days I think, you know what? I have to go out and find some venture capitalism. I have to find ways to get like significant amount of money here so I can go get the guys that I see right now. I see guys that I want to get for certain shows. But then again, it's like, do you want to go out and pay a bunch of guys to just run shows that you don't know if they'll be successful or not? Or do you just want to make guys continue to do what I've done and then what Nick has done, which is, prove yourself. If you're worth something, prove it. And if you prove it, then you get paid. That's how it works. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do, but Chatterbox is in a fun position right now. I just don't know which direction we go down. And hopefully whatever it is, it's the best. It's the best. I think we'll see what happens next year. It wouldn't shock me in the world if we had some high school stuff again. I do know this. There's some funny stuff that we plan on doing, man. I tell you, Elliot's a funny dude. Man. If you give Elliot a chance to do some stuff, I think it'll be funny. So who knows where that takes us? We might be a comedy. We already are comedy, Nick, but we'll probably be more comedy the more we keep doing this. So can't wait to start these segments. We've been working on a segment for Off the Bench, not to plug that show, that you guys are going to piss your pants laughing. I mean, it is going to be outlandishly funny. All right, Randy, big fan, Randy. We appreciate your loyalty, man. Says, seriously, are you guys worried about Ben Lively having PTSD about his last Cubs outing? If he pitches and gets in trouble, I don't know, man. I mean, listen, when Ben Lively's on the mound, with all due respect to Ben Lively and his family, of course, I just expect to probably lose that game. So if he pitches well and the Reds win, then man, I'll be fired up about it.
No, use the opener. I mean, it worked. It worked last time. It looked more comfortable. I mean, I don't. Maybe not more comfortable. It was successful. Why not use that same method? Hey, look, Ben Lively. He's going to be coming out tomorrow, assuming he gets into this game, and he's got something to prove. I mean, I tell you what, he's going to want to go out there and put up some zeros. After that last outing. So, yeah. But the Cubs are putting a guy that was in the minor leagues 5 days ago on the mound too. So it's it's anyone's game.
It is anyone's game. All right, couple more, and then your boy has to find a way to sleep because I got a long, prosperous day tomorrow at Great American Ballpark. Mr. Juan says Chad Pender, Nick Solak, Jason something. And we got Johnny. You're putting these up so fast I can't even read them. All right, Johnny. Can you want to inform Johnny on that question? I'll ask the question. I want you to inform him. Okay, John. Everyone's been Johnny at once. Don't jump on Johnny. Okay, you might not know the situation. All right, chat. Let's be nice. Johnny asked the question: why didn't the Reds claim Carlos Carrasco, Mike Clevenger, Jose Cisnero, excuse me, Lucas Giolito? Why didn't they do that, Nick?
They didn't get a chance for Giolito. He was claimed by a team ahead of them. The other three went through every single team, and none of them claimed them. So it's hard to really, I don't know, question why, because every other team passed on them, and there's teams that have huge needs. Carrasco's was awful. There's no way he would have cost $2.33 million for a month. He's been a really bad pitcher. Clevenger just has that. He has a $4 million buyout next year, so he's expensive. Cisnero, I was a little surprised. He was like only $380,000. He's got a 5.36 ERA, 4.38 FIP. I don't think he would have been an upgrade for the Reds bullpen, but I'm surprised there wasn't another team that took a shot at him. But I don't think he wasn't like the Matt Moore, Ronaldo Lopez that would have been clear upgrades for the Reds bullpen. Maybe he would have been, but it's kind of really iffy.
Can I shine a pretty good light on that as well? I think for those that might question why they didn't maybe go get these other guys is that, the same thing that we said about the Marlins, and they probably would have paid some money to get the guys that otherwise they didn't claim because they didn't know who was going to be there and who wasn't. You can theoretically claim as many guys as you want, but if you get them, you have to pay them all that money. So you got to be a little bit of chicken, like you called it. I think that it's a little unfair to say that they should have maybe put a claim in for Clevenger when, if for whatever reason Giolito did get to them, then they're on the hook for Giolito and Clevenger. Now you're in a position where you're like, I know it sounds like you can never have enough, and maybe that's a good point, but again, you can't go down this rabbit hole of saying they should have claimed 9 guys. Assuming that they and knowing that they were not going to get Giolito, they were not going to get Moore, they were not going to get any other not only relievers but also starters. So I think that's part of the equation too, Nick.
Yeah, Joey Britt. Look, Jordan Wicks is a top prospect for the Cubs. Was really good in his first start. Was against the Pirates, but hey, the Reds they've got him. He's a lefty. And the Reds drastically improved their lineup against left-handed pitchers. So it'll be a good challenge. I'm excited for that first game. Especially with Graham Ashcraft on the mound, who's pitching as well as anyone. I don't know. I have a good feeling. I think Harrison Bader's going to do something special tomorrow. First pitch, bleachers.
Oh no, he's calling home runs. He's calling home runs.
Now here we go. Yeah.
Now that'll get him going, Molly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Molly. You want to get Nick Kirby going. Tell you
would that be the most Stuart Fairchild thing ever? If tomorrow Reds had all these lefty mashers, he's batting 9th and he hits like 3 home runs or something.
Yeah, there's a joke in there somewhere. I don't know how to bring it out, but you start bringing up Fairchild enough, and next thing you know, Nick will have a Freudian slip, and he'll bring up Bader.
Good question. So, look, the Guardians. So, this is what I found most interesting about today. So, the Guardians at the trade deadline traded away Aaron Savali, a really good pitcher, to the Rays, but they got a top 40 prospect back, a big bat that can help them down the line. Well, then they're a little bit farther out, and they add all these guys today, but they're still only 5 games out of a playoff spot. But the difference is they gave up nothing for these guys. Nothing. Like, it's just money. And this gives them a chance to hang around in the race. Great PR for them. Like I know you mentioned, this is great PR. Hey, look, we added some salary, even if it doesn't work. Right. It doesn't hurt any of their long-term plan, any of their future. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was a good decision for them, and for the Reds, it really helped them out because Lucas Giolito and one of those relievers would have been Miami Marlins, and that makes them another more dangerous threat to the Reds. So they did the Reds a massive solid. Now the Reds do play the Guardians twice, but the Guardians also play the Giants 3 times. So we'll see kind of how that shakes out.
Yeah. For those that are asking, did the Reds get better today? Yes, they got better. All right, they got better. Reds got much better. They just did. So, all right. It has been, we're almost on an hour and a half show on a day that we thought we were going to have an off day. So for those that are asking, are we excited? Do we think that we got anywhere today? I think the answer is yes. We had a chance to not do a show, and instead we went for an hour and a half. Nick's going to have fun probably cutting up some of this stuff because he's just a grinder. He's the grinder of all the grinders. Is Nick Kirby? He'll have a podcast out in pod. What was I going to say? He'll have a podcast out that's available on all podcast platforms. I know I tell you guys this all the time, man. I mean, like, this is ridiculous. Today is the first time something happened to me. It's just felt really weird. And I was down getting signs, no parking signs for the Bash on Short Fine event that we're doing this Saturday for the UC tailgate. And I was down there near Great American Ballpark picking them up from the police station. And I was obviously at the Great American Ballpark when I did my little video there in front of the stadium. But then I was leaving. Some guy yelled my name from like a car and I was crossing the street. And I legit thought it was going to be like a family member. I legit, like, that's what I thought. I was like, oh, who is this? I ran over there to the car and he's just like, I love the show, man. I love the show. And I was just like, so for you guys, spreading the word, liking the streams every single day, it means a lot, man. It means a lot. I never in a million years did I ever want to get famous from any of this. Did I care about any of that? It's beside the point. It does feel cool to have people enjoy this and what we do because we put a lot of work into it. Nick puts a ton of work into this. And again, Chatterbox as a whole just continues to grow, and it's authentic. We keep it authentic. We love it. It's fun. But what an enjoyable thing this has been as a Cincinnati Reds. I fully expected, and I told Nick before the season started, I said, well, let's just get in before everybody else thinks it's cool to be a Reds fan. And let's get in with all the OGs. Let's start this. They're going to win like 70 games this year if we're lucky. And, still haven't won 70, but we're at 69, which is pretty close. And what a blessing that you guys are. We have 250 people in this chat at a 10:30 on a Thursday. So I don't know, Nick. I know I tell them all the time we love them. I don't know if they really know that. I don't know if they appreciate it enough, but I don't know. It's an unbelievable feeling to know that you guys are this supportive, and this is just the beginning. As the crazy thing, it's just the beginning of a rocket ship that is the Cincinnati Reds and hopefully Chatterbox Sports.
Yeah, no question. Well said. I mean, we had like 30 people watching our opening day broadcast, and we had like almost 300 people tonight on a random show about the Reds adding Harrison Bader. So shout out to you. I mean, this has been awesome. We had, I think we were excited about what this show could be, but I think it's surpassed any of our realistic goals or aspirations this year. And I think it's just going to continue to grow because I keep hearing from people that somehow didn't know about our show that just found out about it a week ago. Someone, their friend told them. So yeah, tell your friends. If you have a friend that's a Reds fan, a lot of people aren't on x.com all day or whatever. Right. And they don't know about all this stuff. And, tell them what we do. We would appreciate it. Craig asked the questions. It'll just be one pod tomorrow. Probably what I'll do is I'll slice up maybe the first 20 minutes of that, put that in so we have a conversation, and then it'll go straight into my conversation with Sully. And I'll even at the end do a little Reds MILB for you. So it'll be probably our longest pod ever, but I just like to put it in one. I don't like to do two in a day because sometimes the pod will redirect you to some other pod, and I don't want you to do that. I want you to stay with us the whole time and enjoy it. So it'll be a long one tomorrow. If you listen to this, I'll try to put a timestamp in the morning to where it's right to Sully. So you can, just find whatever the timestamp is, but it'll be about 20 minutes in or so. and we'll roll with it. But yeah, shout out to you. Appreciate all of you.
All right, Nick, you're running the show, brother. That means you get to send us off. You get to send us off in the sunset, man. That's I seen the audible gasp right there when you said, "Oh, Tracy's gonna make me send us off." You don't have to be inspirational. You don't have to be anything crazy. You just got to say something nice, and we'll end the stream. How about that? Take us away.
Cincinnati Reds are back. Harrison Bader's back. Hunter Renfroe's back. Let's go, Reds.